So probably might as well we went to the Rambam again. It's a battle. Keep it fierce. It's a battle. To keep it fierce the way we want is a battle.
It's a complicated night with the Rambam.
Yeah. Right. Thanks. So, are we able to start? Right. I'll just make a reference before we begin.
Don't thank me, I told you that.
Just by the way, on the contrary to what we just remarked, that we're sort of dropping back a bit in the attendance. I had a bocher that came to see me today in my house, and he said that his father, who lives in Switzerland, watches the Shiurim regularly. So yeah, and he said the one in Etterville, we're learning now Tzemach on Wednesday night, and this one he watches regularly. So nowadays you never know who you're speaking to. Good. So this evening we're learning the Dvar Malchus of the Rebbe from Parshas Shemos Toshin Nun Beis. And the learning is taking place in the Beis Knesset Tzedek, Be'ir HaKodesh, Be'ir Atika, Tsfat, Techeina Nosabeina, Bimheida V'Yomeino. And this evening is Erev Shabbos Kodesh Kof Teves, but that is the Hilula of the Rambam. And Beis Hashem will make reference to that as we go along, Beis Hashem. So we welcome all those to the Shiur, and here we begin. So we find what we're going to do is deal briefly in a summary form with quite a bit of the Sikha that we've learned on previous occasions, and we'll try to sort of pay attention inside in the actual reading and learning more toward the siyum of the inyan, and that is that there's a general question that one can ask on the opening of this Sedra, Ele Shmois, or Ve'ele Shmois B'nai Yisrael, Aboim Mitzrayma, Reuven and Shimon and so on. Already in Parsha Vayigash, when Yaakov Avinu actually began physically coming to Eretz Yisrael, once he heard that Yosef Tzedek was alive and was going to bring him down and feed him and protect him from the Rav and so on. Shalom, Erev Tov. So it was mentioned in detail. You should have, that was with your right hand, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So I once heard from my mashgiach that you shouldn't even give just something that seems to be quick. You must always give another yid only with the right hand. And the Rebbe was very, very mafid on that. Yeah. Very, when people would go past him by mistake, they put out their left hand. The Rebbe would sort of go like that until they woke up, Yeah. Anyway, that's just a little point. Is so the general question that asks itself is that over there it was already reckoned out all the people, all the members of Yaakov Avinu's family, all of his sons, and his had he got his grandchildren and the wives of the sons, and everybody was all counted or mentioned openly over them Parsha Vayigash. And that was written at the actual moment that Yaakov Avinu began his journey into Egypt. So we already know all the people that came with Yaakov Avinu. We know their names, and they're already in Egypt. They're already there. Yeah, because they've been there for at least 17 years with Yaakov Avinu. And we're now talking after these talkers of Yaakov Avinu and also these talkers of Yosef Tzaddik. So therefore, it asks itself the general question: why does the Parsha begin with the statement that these are the names of the sons of Israel? In other words, of Yaakov Avinu, that are coming down into Egypt. The expression is haboim, but that's like a continuous expression, how do you call it, a participial expression of the verb. Habayim, they are coming into Egypt with Yaakov Avinu. We already know who these people are, and we know that they've been in Mitzrayim for so many years, and then we say that their number is lacking the sons of Yosef. Oh, but we're counting Yosef, but he was already in Mitzrayim. I mean, everybody was already in Mitzrayim, so it's puzzling. What do we mention all these names for? And what do we mention that they came into Egypt? We already know all that. So therefore, various angles and various approaches are taken in reference to what is the point of this mentioning, and why is it, and that's also very important, why is it that the word Shemos becomes like the name of the whole Sefer? And the whole Sefer deals at the very beginning with the actual Shiur in Mitzrayim, but from Parsha Boy and further, it deals with the going out of the Yetzias Mitzrayim, Biyad Rama, and then all the follow-ups that followed the actual going out. Matan Torah, and then the building of the Mishkan, and in detail we're going to get to that, and other inyonim which came up, the Chet HaEgel and other inyonim, but all of these things were all connected with the going out of Mitzrayim. So, it would have been fitting to call it some name, like to do with going out, Yetzirah, which should be called Sefer Yetzias Mitzrayim, perhaps. And in English, I pointed this out in the class the other day, in English it's called Exodus. What Exodus means, a going out, how do you call it, a leaving, and a severe, how do you call it, redemption type passing out of a place, and leaving it behind altogether. And here we see the word Shemos. That becomes the ruling name, and it gives, as it were, the whole character to the whole Sefer. So it must have some very essential connection. So many answers are given to this. In other words, in Parshas, the appearance of these names must have some very special message of its own, apart from the fact that they just came and they were called kaf for kaf, because that we know already. So the mentioning of them again must carry some message. So the Rebbe begins this whole wondrous sikha with the fact that it's brought down in the Medrash Rabbah, and also mentioned in the Medrash Tanchuma and other places in Medrash Chazal, that why are the names of the tribes? Because you notice that we don't mention all the names of the whole family again. That's already been written in Parsha Vayigash. We mention just the names of the tribes, only the names of the sons of of Yaakov. Only they are mentioned. So comes along the Medrash, and the Medrash says, why are these names mentioned, especially? And the kilo, as it were, coming down into Egypt, they're boying Mitzrayim. What is the message of these names? So the Medrash says that these names are called on Gulason Shel Yisrael. That each of these names, and the Medrash reckons in detail how each of these names indicates the Geula. And not only indicates the Geula from Mitzrayim, but one or two of the Pesukim which are brought, especially the one in reference to Yosef, that's of particular interest, is talk about the Geula Asida, they're Pesukim which refer to the coming Geula. So Im Kain, when the Medrash says it's talking about Geuloson Shel Yisrael, the names, the Shmois, are all indicating the Geula of Yidden. It's not only talking about the Geula from Mitzrayim, it's talking also about the Geula Amitis Vashlim. Im Kain, the mentioning of these names at this particular point is Al Shem Geuloson Shel Yisrael. And so therefore the obvious question arouses, but the Pasuk says they're coming down now into Mitzrayim. And the Mitzrayim is the beginning of the Golas. And this week's Parsha is the beginning how things really begin to fall into a situation of Golas, where the Amamishin Golas, Yokom Melech Chodosh al Mitzrayim, with the whole story, is in Cain. Why would the names indicate the Geula of Yidden from Mitzrayim at the very moment that they're called coming in? And they're not coming in, they've already been there before. So this coming in obviously is also referring to something. And so the simple implication is that it's referring to the coming into the depths of the Golas. If that's the case, then why do you say that their names, what the Alter Rebbe teaches us in Shara Yichud, that the name of a thing indicates its panemius of what it's all about. The name of something is very essential to what it represents. As if their names represent the Geula, right at the moment that they're going into Golas, what's the point of mentioning their names referring to the Geula, which implies that the names of the Shvatim Pe'ikar are referring to the Geula. And that's their Ika, what you might call essence, and their Ika Moses, is that they're going out of the Golas, and they're coming into the Golas, and they're starting 210 years of a terrible Golas. So obviously, the attentive reader realizes that there's something very significant hidden in that remark of the Medrash, that their names represent the Inyan of the Geula. So the Rebbe makes the point that there's another Medrash, also in the Medrash Rabbah, and that says that when the actual Geula Mitzrayim came, it came in the schus of three or four very important factors that the Yidden had kept or guarded very carefully, despite the fact that they were under the Shibud of the Mitzrayim for so long. And that is that they didn't change their names, they didn't change their language, and they didn't change their, how do you call it, garments. Would you like a cup of coffee? So maybe, you sit up a little bit, it'll be easier. The reason I'm making a small prick at you is I really understand that you really do want to hear. So the Medrash says that the Yidden never changed their names, they never changed their language, and they never changed the type of garments that they wore. It was always recognizable on a Yid that there was a Yid from his garments. He wore a special And that's why we see that Yidden have always been very specific about what they wear. It's always important. And even to this day, we find that Fruma Yidden have a certain way of dressing, which is very important. This is not a shiur at the moment about the importance educationally of what you wear. However, that's one of the factors. So the Rebbe says the first one that's mentioned is they didn't change their names. They always do. And so the Medrash says that when it came to the point, Hashem made it clear that one of the factors that stood them in stead, and brought them and gave them the schus to come to the Gula, was that they didn't alter their names. So we see that the names have a very important role anyway, even without the details exactly, but they get to the Geula. However, so the Rebbe, that's not to be, as it were, too much equalized to what we're talking about. If Beklav, because the Rebbe says that that's like after a certain period of time has gone past, and we're holding already by the Geula. So we're looking back and we're saying, oh, the fact that they made such an effort to get to their names and that was a great schus that helped them to reach the Geula. Over here we're saying something different. He was saying that at the moment they're going into the Goddess, right at the very moment they're beginning to enter the Goddess, their names, only of the sons of Yaakov, the Ika names of Yidden, are mentioned, but they get to a Geula, which is the very opposite of what's happening at that particular moment. And their whole significance is Al Shem HaGeula. So the Rebbe points out that that's a different type of point than the other point made by the Medrash. So therefore, we need to understand, and also we have here that in that Geula that was being mentioned in their names, or hinted at in their names, was not only the Geula from Mitzrayim, but it was koilel in itself, also the Geula Yehoasida. So we need to understand, what is all that about. So in order to understand that, the Rebbe takes us to a Mishnah. And the Mishnah is the final Mishnah in Perik Aleph, in the first chapter of Masechta Brachos. And this is brought down in the Haggadah Shel Pesach. Every year, during the Leila Seder, in the Haggadah, you read this Mishnah. And the Mishnah says, it's in the Gemara, and Masechta comes out of Daf Yud Beis, Omid Beis. But the Mishnah is the final Mishnah of Perik Aleph, and it says that the Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, he says that behold, I am like a man of 70 years old. You follow? And so he wasn't 70 years old by any means. There's difference of opinion between the Talmud Bavli and the Talmud Yerushalmi, how old he was at that point. There's something wrong?
I want to know where you are.
Huh?
Are you reading inside?
Not exactly. I'm just giving my... he was really a very young person. According to the Yerushalmi, it's apparent that he was only 13. He was only just after Bar Mitzvah. According to the Talmud Bavli, we're a bit more liberal, and we say that he was 18 years old. But he became the Nasi. He was elected as the Nasi. And so the Gemara said, what was so special about, Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah? So it says that he was the 10th generation from Ezra. Ezra HaSefer. In other words, he had what they call yichus, and apart from that, he was a very great chacham in Torah, even though he was only very young. He was just bocky and informed in everything. So in those two regards, he was very fitting to be. However, and this was at the moment that they'd taken Rabbi Gamliel away from the Nasi. Rabbi Gamliel had been the Nasi, But there's a whole story in the Gemara Masechet Brachos, but I can't go into now because it would take too long. Rabbi Gamliel was dismissed from the status of being the Nasi, and Rabbi ben Azariah came in his place. So he went home and he asked his Rebbetzin, what did she think about the idea, of him taking over the Messiah? And maybe he should be worried that maybe Rabbi Gamliel was a very great man. Maybe he might have a kapeda, and that could damage him. So she said to him that the main problem is that you're very young. You look young also. And somebody who's going to be a Nasi, he has to have a white beard. So Rabbi ben Azariah said, you have a point, So immediately Hashem made a nest. And there appeared 18 white hairs in his beard. And these 18 white hairs in his beard were just sufficiently spread throughout his beard to make him look as if he was turning white. And so she said that if that's the case, if that's the way you look, then you should go ahead, So, he took the Nasi's and he became, Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah became the Nasi. So then he says, Harei ani ben Shevim Shona. So Rashi learns over there that was on the day that this happened. He said, look, I'm like a man of 70 years. In other words, it was a big chiddush. I look like I'm 70, but I'm not really, but I look that way. And he said, however, I haven't had the schus, I haven't had the great merit of proving why you should say Yetzias Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt at night time. In other words, that you're supposed to say it by day. It's an open verse in Sefer Dvarim. Laman tizkor es yem tzeischo me'eretz Mitzrayim kol yemei chayecha. All the days of your life. It's written all the days of your life. You have to remember going out of Egypt. It's also the night time that you have to sort. So it would appear from the Mishnah that everybody knew that you do it at night time. But Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah was saying he hasn't had the schus to prove from the verse, to show a pasuk, Torah, that that's what you have to do. Although the Kabbalah, everybody knew that that's the halacha. Everybody agreed. That wasn't the problem. He said, I haven't. He said, but today, he said, Ben Zoma, that he was also from the great leading Chachamim at that time. And Ben Zoma is another whole story of his own. He was an amazing, absolutely amazing figure. But he said Ben Zoma made a drosha, and he established, made it clear that even at night times you have to say Mina Torah, Apostle in the Torah. You have to say Yetzias Mitzrayim. And that is that Ben Zoma was medactic in the pasuk. And he said, it's written, Laman tizkor shem tzeischo me'eretz Mitzrayim kol yemei chayecha. So he said it would have been enough just to say, V'yemei chayecha tizkor. It wasn't kol yemei chayecha. The word kol, according to the Chachamim, if it's used in certain positions, it's coming to include something more. So therefore he said, kol yemei chayecha includes not only the days, but also the night times. And that made very good sense. All the Chachamim were makabel that. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was also very, was happy, with that pirush. And he was me'asher that had happened on this day. Sure. So then the Mishnah says that's what Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and Ben Zoma, that's what they say. However, the Chachamim, meaning all the other Tanoim, all the other members of the Mishnah group, they say something else. And they also accept Ben Zoma's diuk, that it's written Koil Yemei Chayecha, although that comes to include something else, according to them. And what is that? That Yemei Chayecha includes Olam Hazeh, meaning And it could be that they disagree with Ben Zoma. They also agree it's got to be at night time. They don't disagree with that. But they say that's not the diuk of the word koil. But Yemei Chayecha means this world, the way we are until we reach the Gula Shlema. After the Gula Shlema, that's called Yemei Moshiach. Koil Yemei Chayecha means that you will have to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim even after Mashiach comes. Yeah, Lachovi Yemei Moshiach, to bring literally also the Yemei Moshiach. Well, that itself is a very big chiddush Torah, to say that even after the Geula, you will have to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim. Because the Geula, Asida, which we hope is not Asida anymore, it's very present, it's coming very swiftly, but the Geula, Shlema, let's call it that, that's going to be an absolute Geula in which the ultimate revelations of the highest Madrega in Malchus are going to be revealed, and it's going to be a Geula She'ein Achareya. Goddess is not going to be any more, and it's going to be ideal, in inverted commas, situation in the whole world. It's going to affect the whole human race, etc., etc. You may, how do you call it, the Yetzias Mitzrayim, it's not like that. Yetzias Mitzrayim wasn't everlasting Geula, and it also, it didn't affect the whole world. It had a very big effect ultimately through the message of the Torah. But it didn't affect openly at the time that it occurred. It didn't affect the whole world. And yet, nonetheless, the Chachamim tell me a very interesting chiddush that and we're going now with the assumption that there's no real difference of opinion between all these people. They're all just adding to what the other one said, or adding a new vista in the Pirush of the Pasukim. Or they're not really different. Some opinions hold that they do differ, but then it gets a bit more complicated, and I don't want to get involved in that part of it at the moment. We're assuming that they all agree. So the Chachamim are coming to add. They're not coming to differ with anybody. They're coming to add. And so they say that even in the ideal, absolutely perfect world that's going to be after Moshiach, you also have to mention, how do you call it, Yetzias Mitzrayim, the going out of Egypt, you'll also have to mention. And the Rebbe points out that if you study carefully the Lashon of the Chachamim, then it would appear that they're saying like this. They're saying that this has to be the whole time, both things. You've got to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim, and you've got to connect that with Yemei Moshiach, even for Olam Hazeh. In other words, that in Olam Hazeh, the going out of Egypt has got to tell you the message of Yemei Moshiach, and say, if I've revealed to you the whole message of Yemei Moshiach, then I'm part of it. Together, with the fact that when Moshiach will actually come, we'll also mention Yetzias Mitzrayim. In other words, that there's a hint of a very clear hoirua in the words of the Chachamim, that even now in Olam Hazeh, when I read Krishna, and I mention particularly the Yetzias Mitzrayim by the infant tzitzis, I've got to be mechaven that this is also telling me that not only there was Yetzias Mitzrayim, but there's also going to be a Gula Shlema, and you have to now hear, as it were, the message, and you have to live with the Gula Shlema inside what you're mentioning and remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim. In other words, that whenever I mention Yetzias Mitzrayim, I've also got to mention the whole idea of Geula and the ultimate Geula Shlema. So the Rebbe says, why? Why would it be like that? As it were, what is Kila, the hidden message behind that? So the Rebbe makes a very, how do you call it, Kedavi, V'koidesh. The Rebbe reveals to us a very amazing point. And that is that Yetzias Mitzrayim is really the pneumias of all the Geulas that occur later on. Because Yidden were in Golas, and then there was the Geula Mibovel, and then there was the Geula from the Yavonim, and there's been all sorts of different Geulas, and the ultimate Geula is going to be the Geula Shlema. So the Rebbe says that the Indian of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the actual going out of Egypt itself, that is like the pneumias of all the Geulas, including the Geula Shlema. And that's going to be ultimately the message at the Medrash, what the Medrash said, that when the sons were going into Mitzrayim, at that moment they were also connecting with the Geula, and their names indicate the Geula, including even the Geula Shlema. And that is that the Indian of Yetzias Mitzrayim, Kishmoi, Kain Hu, its name, it means they're going out of, how do you call it, limitations. Mitzrayim, means that inside yourself, or the cloud, we break the whole Indian of limitation, and we go out and we reach, like you mentioned before, the word Ein Sof, and the Alter brings it in Tanya, Perek Mem Zayin, that we link up and we form a unity with the ultimate koyach, hidden in the Bria, that only can be revealed if you break through. You got to break through something. You have to, as it were, first of all, go into a limitation or be involved in a limitation, and then, or exposed, let's put it that way, to a limitation, and then you break out and you pirates all the inyanim, and then that brings to a whole new concept called Geula. That's the whole concept of Geula. Of Amira, it's well known that when anything like of that nature begins, well, that's like, as it were, the perfection of its whole essence. And so it only began with Yetzias Mitzrayim. But that's a tremendous chiddush that occurred in the whole Bria, going out. And therefore, by Matan Torah, when the Eibishter is announcing himself, who is he? He says, Anoichi Havai Elokecha Asher Hoitzisicho Me'eretz Mitzrayim. He doesn't say, I'm the Eibishter that I created the whole world, like the Rabbi Yehuda Levi asked that question. Why didn't it say, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha Asher Parshas Shamayim V'Oretz? I'm the balabas on the whole universe. Why does he say, Asher Hoitzisicho Me'eretz Mitzrayim? That is the Ikar. That's the big thing. That through Yetzias Mitzrayim, they began this in a breaking the limiting powers and going beyond altogether. And that's the koyak of the limited, created individual to meet up with the Oyer Ein Tov. And that's what you were mentioning before, that the limited individual meets up with the Oyer Ein Tov, with the unlimited aspect of the Eibishter completely. And that begins with Yetzia Mi Meitzorim U'Gvulim. And that began in Yetzias Mitzrayim. And therefore, Yetzias Mitzrayim is the pneumias, and like the neshama, I feel the Geula Shlema, even the Geula Asida, the Geula Shlema, taking me out mummies, or the neshama, and as it were, the pneumias inside that, is Yetzias Mitzrayim. Isn't it?
Yes.
Say L'chaim of the. You follow? About Malchus is this Indian of Yetzias Mitzrayim and Geula link up. Yeah? In other words, the ultimacy of Yetzias Mitzrayim is Geula. Of the pneumius of Geula is Yetzias Mitzrayim. So they're interlinked, and they, how do you call it, they're mashlim and perfect one the other. And that's the point that the Rebbe makes in this whole inner with the Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah and how do you call it, Ben Zoyma, that did for him this tremendous service that he found out, and saying at night times. So the Rebbe said, what is the night time? The night time is the Golas. That even though you're in the Golas, You have to be Mazkir Yitzias Mitzrayim. You have to mention the going out. You have the inyan of Yitzia Mitzrayim and Gevulim, even though you've gone into the Goddess. And that's the meaning of the Parsha. At the beginning, Habayim Mitzrayim, they're coming into the whole thing. But they're mentioned, Geulosom, they're already Lamaylam is there. They're completely out of it, even though they're going into it at this very moment. And that's what Ben Zoma achieved. He said, even when you go into the nighttime, what nighttime indicates the Indian of Emes Goddess, the darkness of the Goddess, not just the limitations of it. But the darkness of it, even in there, you have to say Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is the beginning of this whole inner where autumn breaks out and he reaches the Ein Sof. You know? And that's inner from Geula. The Rebbe said that's the Nakuda that's hidden in this whole statement that when they came into the Goddess, then they were already their names, which is the essential being, what they are, was Al Shema Geula. They were already at the moment that they came in, they were living, and their whole inner was the Geula Shlema. Ultimately, the Geula Shlema. First of all, the Geula from Mitzrayim. They're all basically the same thing. The Neshama of all of them is the same. Neshama, it's the Pneumius of breaking out of all the holding back, how do you call it, all the limitations. And that's what the Chachamim say. They say even more than that. They add a tremendous amount. Therefore, they don't really, according to this whole approach, they don't really differ with Ben Zoma. They're just saying that even in your Olam Hazeh, even before you actually come to the Geula, you got to be living with the Geula. It's got to be part. Lahovi liyamois on Mashiach, like the Friedrich Rebbe said, you got to be ready to bring, and you got to do everything to promote that. And your avodah, which is reflected through Kriyat Shema, your whole avodah is to bring to that. And remember, even when Mashiach will come, we'll talk about this amazing idea of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Remember, we're not left with a great deal of time, but we're going to read a little passage, at least on page 35, where the headline there is on page 35. So the Rebbe said, Nakuda zu, Shalenu lahaktir or lahaknis, Kam bezman agoras es Yetzias Mitzrayim, v'yemais Mashiach, that we have to, lahaktir means to make pneumius, to bring into our lives in a pneumistic way. Even in the time of the Goddess, we have to be living with the Yemais Mashiach. Mudgeshes kam betchilas Masechta Brachas. He said that's also, this whole Mishnah that we were talking about occurs towards the end of Masechta Perik Aleph of Masechta Brachas. The Rebbe said, let's go to the very beginning itself of the whole Masechta Brachas. So he said, Tchilas HaPerik HaMishtayim B'Divri Rabbi Elazar. That's the beginning of the same Perik that we're dealing with. Yeah. That's what it finishes with Rabbi Elazar, what he says, Maskirin, you see, it's Mitzrayim B'Leilos. Yeah, and he said also with the completion of the Gemara. So here the Rebbe takes on a very interesting, and it's very fascinating that we've met this point. But Yidden all over the world have been making Siyumei Hashas. Yeah, they've been making celebrations of having completed the Daf Yomi. It's well known. It's been all over. There's been a tremendous Pirsum about this. So here we reach where the Rebbe talks about the beginning of the whole Shas and also the completion of the whole Shas. And he says, how does it all begin? He said, Tchilas Masechta Brachas, Shas Kulei, and that means the whole Shas, begins with the words, Me'ei Moisai Koirin Eshma Ba'arivin. When are we reading, when do we begin reading the Shema in the evening? In other words, when does the time for saying Shema begin? of Mosai means from when do we start reading the Shema in the evening time. Arvin is a way of saying in the classical Hebrew, the evening time. Yeah? So he says, Kaloima, Shagam Arvin, even though you're going into the nighttime, you're going into the time of darkness. And there's a new thing now to read Kriyas Shema at nighttime. So he says, Ba'arvin, Belial Hagolas, but the whole Inyan and Laila indicates the idea of Golas. Oleinu Likroya Shema, we have to read the Shema. Los eis Lanishmoseinu, Lihidabuku Avaya, Velot eis Meagbolas Hagov. In other words, from Mitzrayim, meaning Mitzrayim and limitation. So when you read Shema, what do you say? Havaya Lekeno, Havaya Chod. Well, it means that you link up with the Etzeminion of Helikus. So that you've got to do also at night time. Yeah, Koyin Shema, I feel about Ba'arvin. All this principle that the Rebbe has been talking about, of reminding the going out of all the limitations, add to the Gula Shlema, all of that is hinted in the very beginning of the whole Shisa Sedra Mishnah and the whole Gemara with all the Shastra. Those are the first words. So the Rebbe says, what is the end of the whole Gemara? The Shiur Mashas, who would Dvar Gemara, and it's very interesting. You all know this because this begins. We say this every day in davening at the end of Ein Kelokein before Leino. Then it's written there in the Gemara that Kol HaShoina, because there's a few Masechtas that they finish with this lotion. Masechta Brachas also finished in Masechta Yevomas, I think, and there's several Masechtas that they finish with the same lashon. Masechta Nida, which is the last Masechta of the Shas, also finishes with this. Kol HaShoina halochis b'kol yom muvtach lo yishu bein olam habo. Whoever will learn halachis, he will learn the dinim and that to come out of the Gemara every day. Muvtach lo yishu bein olam habo. He's promised that he's going to be a member, he's going to be Zeicha to Olam Habo. So when the Gemara uses the expression here, Olam Habo, what does it mean? What is the meaning of the word Olam Habo? But Parshas is referring to this man after Mashiach will already come, and after Tchias HaMesim, that's called Olam Habo. So he says, Kaloima, what does that mean? Shegam Koeis, Bezman HaGolos, or even right now, at this time, Nitan Lahagir Lamatzav Shokyu Ula Olam Habo, you can reach the matzav of Geula that you can become a ben Olam Habo, like you're a born person out of Olam Habo. You're shy to Olam Habo. And how can you do that? Through learning Torah, through Kol HaShoina halachas, that even though you're in the Golas, we haven't come to the mamish, to the moment of the Geula at this moment. He says we're still in the Golas, but we can be a ben Olam Habo. We can already be holding by the Olam Habo through the union of learning halachas, meaning learning Torah. Obedivri Mishnah. How does the Mishnah say that? Hashem oisli am. You turn up into the last Mishnah in the whole shot. Hashem oisli am yitain. Hashem yivorich es am Basholim is the one that's the siyum of the whole shas. Kalema shegam koeis mekablim koya vo'ois miyuchadim kedei lahagir l'sholim ha'amiti sheyeh b'giula. In other words, the ben olam habo means that you will move into the Geula. You will be already part of the Geula. You'll be a son of olam habo. You'll live in the Geula. How do you do that? Through learning Torah. So you say, but I don't have any koyach, I don't have any time. It's hard for me once I get home, I can't slip out again, I can't do this, I can't do that. All the tirusim of the Nefesh Abamis. So the Rebbe says that you've got a special Messinas koyach. There's a special The whole Shas completes with a blessing. It says, Hashem oizli ama yatein, Hashem yivorech es ama yipasholim, means that if you really want to learn Torah, Hashem gives you the koyach, and He finds a way for you to make your way to learning Torah. If you do that, you become a ben oilam habo, means that you're already shy to the Geula in the last moments of the Golas. You're already shy to the Geula. You're a ben oilam habo. So the Rebbe said, Kaish novin heitev es divri ha-medrash, שהסיבה קורא שמויסם של בני ישראל בכניסוסם למצרים הוא על שם הגאולת ישראל. Now we'll go back to what we started, and now we understand it good. He said, כיוון שהמטרה היא, אכן, שגם כשנכנסים לגולת, צריך לזכור שזהו לא רק יהיה מויביל להגאולה, אלא שזהו בעצם חלק מתהליך הגאולה עצמו. Why is it at the moment they came into Golas, they were already called Hashem Geulas Yisrael, because they knew very well that the coming into Mitzrayim is part of the whole inyan of the Geula. In other words, the whole inyan of the Geula is to bring us to the Ein Sof, beyond the limitations. First of all, you have to go into the limitations and break them, and that's how you come to that inyan. So the actual entering of Mitzrayim is itself like the beginning, and it's the etzem of the Geula. And therefore, the Medrash says that their names were indicating what they are. But etzem, at the moment they came into Mitzrayim, they were already calling themselves on the Shem HaGeula. In other words, it's like we spoke about in the Shiur or whatever, that Melchatchila, if you take this attitude, then it means Melchatchila, you're not really ever in Golas. You might sort of go to a place which has got that name, but you're not really in it because you're holding by the Geula. And when we think about it, this is one of the points we made in that class, that when you think about it, ask yourself the question, 2,000, 3,000 years almost, Yidden have been muttons of, from one Medina to the other, and whole civilizations have appeared in the world, and they've disappeared, like the Aztecs, all sorts of other things. And they're part of archaeology, everybody's digging all over the place to try and find where they are. And he got the Yidden, the Yidden sort of moving and draying here and there. And here they are, now the Rebbe's got them saying, we want Mashiach now, Geula. And remember, they're waving a Mashiach flag. So, how does this happen? Because Melchatchila, they don't really enter the Golas ever. They are at that moment, they're aware of the fact that that's only a way of reaching the ultimate Geula, and not just the Geulas Mitzrayim. I had to say, why are we going to make such a special thing about Geulas Mitzrayim? Like we explained, that's like the beginning of everything. That's the etzem breaking out. And we have to remember that when they got out of Mitzrayim, it wasn't easy. They were fleeing from the evil. The Alter Rebbe points in Tanya, Perek Lamed Aleph, that it was, it was touch and go, even in the rookness of the Eden themselves. And Ki Baruch Ha'am, that the Am fled. And the Alter Rebbe learns the Pshat, they fled from themselves. They had to flee. And nonetheless, there's a very great and unbelievable dearness, how do you call it, hidden in the inyan of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Al-Afako. And Al-Afako, the details, they did actually go out, they broke all the Meitzorim and the Gulim. And in 50 days, they were already held by Matan Torah. But that's an amazing thing. That's a sign that they did really go. Even when Moshiach is here, and it'll be an absolute ideal world, and it'll be forever lasting like that, we're going to look back and say, where did it all begin? Where's the whole neshama of this whole inyan that we're now living in? Yetzias Mitzrayim. And therefore, the person tells us, Laman Tizkers Yom Teischem Eretz Mitzrayim, Kol Yemei Chayach. And the Chachamim revealed to us that even when Mashiach comes, that's going to be the case. So, as people will see, right towards the end of the Sikha, the Rebbe mentions the fact that they had exactly the same kriyas then, in the time of the Sikha, as we have now. And Friday before Shabbos Parshas Shemos was Kof Teves. It was the Yotzei of the Rambam, just like we have now. But tomorrow or tonight is already the Yotzei, and that's Erev Shabbos. So the Rebbe said that the Rambam, he was Mekayim all of these inyonim that we just mentioned in the most amazing way. You know, the Rambam was, he was in this terrible goddess of, they'd already been driven out of Tsfat, and they'd come in amongst all the Muslims. You know? And then you had all these crazy sultans, and the Rambam had to look after the sultan every day and get him out of all his shikras and all his taivas and make him function. You know, the day after day, the Rambam had to find some medical way of getting him into some sort of shape. You know, yeah, sure. And he was in danger of very severe personal damage if he didn't get him into some sort of shape. So every day, not only the Sultan, the Rambam he had whole housefuls of people that waited for him for hours, that they wanted to see him, and get his medical advisement, the whole thing. Did you want to say something?
Because he was drunk?
Yeah, not just drunk. That was only part of it. You can imagine. Even he was a wreck, you know, this guy. He was a wreck. Mela, he had to be got, you know, into some sort of shape to run the Medina. The Rambam had that job every day. But apart from that, there was all these people that they lined up, and amongst them non-Yidden. It wasn't all Yidden. It was, he's famous, a doctor, it spread. And so the Rambam writes to a great Torah figure that said he wants to come talk in Divrei Torah with the Rambam. So the Rambam says, listen, I'll be quite frank with you, you're a very honorable person. I will give you cover if you come, but I'm not going to be able to sit and talk with you. I just simply don't have the time at this stage of the game. That's what the Rambam said. And yet at that time, he was writing the Yad HaChazaka. He was in the middle of it. And there were certain times when the Rambam wrote parts of this great sefer when he was actually laying on a sort of a couch that he had specially arranged. He was so exhausted that he couldn't sit at the table. He had to sort of lay, but nonetheless he would jot, you know, and carry on with his. It's just, when you think about it, it's just mind-boggling, you know. Nonetheless, you know, the Rambam did write the other Chazaka, and he is the Nesha HaGodel. You know, he is all of these things, despite all of this. So the Rebbe said that's the Indian perfectly of remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim, even in the nighttime. That's the perfect keeping of what Ben Zoma said. And also the addition of the Chachamim. The Rambam writes, he was one of the few great codifiers of all the laws, that he writes all about Melech HaMashiach, and he paskins all the halachas, how it's going to be. And the Rebbe said, halakhaically speaking, the approach of Yidden throughout all the generations from that time has always been according to what the Rambam said. The Rambam, in his brevity, but nonetheless he presents this whole amazing picture, halakhaically, of Bias HaMashiach. The Rebbe said the Rambam, together with remembering, that he's going to be beyond limitation, which he was linking that with Yemei HaMashiach, you know, and he was saying that that is the ultimate Yetzias Mitzrayim, and that is the Neshama, or the ultimate expression, let's put it that way, the whole neshama, the whole thing, which is Yetzias Mitzrayim. Therefore, the Rambam is like a amazing personification. He's like a sort of a personal dogma of everything we said in the evening. Philip was. We will say L'chaim, and we'll say a few words more, Be'ez Hashem, hopefully, about the Rambam. And we see this amazing picture here, which means that you've got to get used to it, that we're all mentioning what we are. We all have some sort, we make some sort of sense. Where are we really holding? And on what are we based? It's all the remembrance of
Moshe, just take that.
Want me to turn it into powder?
No.
So the Rambam can give me a tikkun in the morning. Tikkun in the morning, tikkun in the morning.
It's like a bringing materials. Big one.
Not at the Kiryat. Yeah, Rabbi Idris house.
Oh, really? No, the Tanya is his house. The bringing is in the shul.
I read it at his house.
No, the bringing in the shul.
Yes. Well, one next door.
No, just the thing that Tanya.
Huh?
Just the thing that Tanya.
Okay. Printing a Tanya, that's pretty good. That's what Mazel's. Right on top of the bottle.
Ah, very good.
No problem. Mazel tells me they're printing a Tanya at Rabbi Hidrik's house.
Rabbi Morzel says about Rabbi Hidrik.
He had an operation,
Oh, yeah?
maybe 2 operations.
I didn't know.
Yes. Guess he was in Hebron and whatever. He's in
Sorry, Tzedek.
Tzedek, thank you.
He was in Hebron, was he?
Yeah, for a Shabbaton.
He had some kind of procedure, had bleeding in his brain or something. So I think he's in Shiur Tzedek. He has to have a lot of rest, and Baruch Hashem, he had a procedure. Who?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Rabbi Hidrik.
When was this, just now?
A few days
It
ago.
happened last Shabbos.
Because Did you know David Glazer?
I know the name, sure, I know the,
David Glazer went through an open heart operation.
wow, young guy.
Yeah, just from the beginning of this week.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've been in touch with, for a couple of days I was off the line because he went through the operation. But I got an email from the British he's come through and that, they're pleased with the operation. And
David Glazer from,
I got an email from him tonight just before I came. Where he writes that he's feeling stronger and he's coming through.
Bezrat Hashem.
Yeah. So it's a time of being mispal for these people.
The chelik of Techiyas
Rambam is a Reuter.
Yeah.
That's good, a Reuter, the Rambam. Reuter, good. Okay.
Good.
He didn't take money either.
This mine? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam bo'yirei pnei hagaf.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam bo'yirei pnei hagaf.
Amen.
So listen, we have to realize that the kesher with the Rambam, with the Gedolei Chassidus, and b'miyuchad, very especially with the Nesiya Chabad Lubavitch from the Alter Rebbe, and further, the kesher between the Alter Rebbe and the Rambam is very, very powerful and very marked, until the point that we have from the Rebbe, Sichas, where the Rebbe, Melech Moshiach, the Rebbe points out that we find parallels in the way the Alter Rebbe presented his works, and the Toichen and the way they're built, very similar to the Rambam. And the Tanya per se, as one on a Perik Beis is like the beginning, the real even though Perik Aleph is the beginning, but as it were, the Ika beginning of the Tanya per se is really Perik Beis. So it talks about the Nefesh Elokis and so on. And so, right near the beginning of Perik Beis, excuse me, the Alter Rebbe brings down the Rambam, and he makes a very key link in his whole presentation with what the Rambam says in the Mishnah Torah, not just in the Meir Nevuchim, but Mamish al Pi Halacha, and then in the Hagua and so on, in Perik Beis. So we see that it begins this very close kesher. And just the very fact that the Alter Rebbe left us and what the world learns be'ika from the Alter Rebbe are the two great works, the Tanya and the Shulchan Aruch. And therefore, B'derech Klal, the Rebbe used to refer to the Alter Rebbe as the Bala Tanya v'Hashulchan Aruch, Bala Shulchan Aruch, Bala Tanya. They're like the two, main. Even though there's much more from the Alter Rebbe, although my Mari have more Zokin, also to me now. That's very similar to the Rambam, that the Shulchan Aruch is a parallel to the Yad HaChazoka, the Inyan Halacha, and the Inyan of the Meir Nevuchim. The parallel to that is the Tanya. The Tanya is like the Meir Nevuchim of our day. And the Rambam wrote the Meir Nevuchim for his period of the Alter Rebbe, built his whole approach to the Klal Yisrael and to all the generations to come. He built on the same basic, how would you call it, plan, or the same basic division of Inyanim as we find in the Rambam, and many, many other indications. And so I just want to make a very interesting point that we find Benegea to the Rambam, and it's very Nogea to the point we are right now in history, and that is that we notice that one of the great Yesodis of the whole Torah of Baal Shem Tov is the inif and the emphasis on Avos Yisrael. In other words, that there's a tremendous Hadgosha, there's a tremendous Hadgosha on the inif, and we all have to Reyacho Kamoicha. And we see that begins with we're all Tzfosium here, and so it begins with the great Tzfosa called the Rabbeinu Yitzchok Luria Ashkenazi, the Arizal. But the Arizal writes, he's brought down in all the Siduri, Arizal, that the Arizal said that before you daven, before you begin your whole davening, you should say, Hareini Mekabla Lai Mitzvahs Asei, Shovi Ohavta L'Reyacha Kamoicha. And the Alter Rebbe brings it down in the Siddur after Birchas HaShachar. Before you even begin Matoiv, the Alter Rebbe writes here, Mitzvahs Asei L'Kabla V'chulu Kedem Tfilah L'Kabla Atzmo, the Indian of V'Ohavta L'Reyacha Kamoicha. And in Hilchus Birchas HaTorah, in Siman Mem Zayin, in the Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe brings it down also. But there he mentions in a slightly different lashon, but the implication is the same. So we see that the whole Avodas Hashem And the old Kesher, the order with the Eibishter, goes through V'yohavta l'reach kamocha. And like Rashi's Maram is in the Sugya there in Masechta Shabbos, where it tells about the story of the ger that he came and said he wants to, be Mizgaya, because you lumot Kol HaTorah, you made al regel achas, and Shammai drove him away. Shammai didn't like him, and Hillel was makabel him, and he became a ger through that. And so Hillel Hazokin, he taught him that you want the whole Torah on one foot. He says, "My desoni lechor lechavri." And so Rashi learns that that's based on the mitzvah, which rightfully so. But Parshas Kemurim, Parshas, it's based on the mitzvah v'yohavta l'reyacha kamocha. And according to one shot that that Rashi brings, is the word reyacho is referring to the Eivishter. Your neighbor is referring to the Eivishter. Don't do to the Eivishter what you've done. And then he says that in the second pshat, Lishna Achrina, as Rashi writes, another lotion, that Reyach is referring to your fellow man. And then the pshat changes, that means don't do it to another yid what you wouldn't want to do to yourself. So, Lefiza contains that he became a ger, and he came to know the whole Torah Kula through the whole inam of the After L'Riach of Kamoicha. And the Arizal said you have to begin your whole day with that, your whole davening, and your whole avodas Hashem has to start with. So if we examine history, we find that throughout all the life of the Rambam, he was very, very, very makpid, never to say anything sharp about other Yidden, and never to, even though he was a public figure, and he was exposed to all sorts of different influences amongst Yidden themselves. That's why he wrote the Sefer Moira Nevuchim. He wanted to try and sort out the dust out of the air, There was some, nonetheless, the Rambam never got publicly unpleasant or angry with anybody from Yidden. And on the contrary, he only spoke very positively. And therefore, in his days, where the Rambam brings the mitzvah of V'yohavta l'recha kamocha, he writes that it's a mitzvah, al kol echad miYisrael, lahav es azulav, lahav es ochiv Yisrael, ka'atzmai, just like he would love himself, mamish. He should love the other person, ka'atzmai mamish, like he loves himself. That's the lashon, or the diuk lashon of the Rambam. So the Rambam brings the pshat v'yohavta l'reach kamocha mamish b'Parshas. You have to love the other person just like you love yourself, b'Parshas, without going into all sorts of pulpulim. What does it mean? Sort it out yourself, but that's what it means, b'Parshas. That's the way the Rambam approaches it. Therefore, the whole opening of the Rambam's career, how did he become known as a leading Torah figure and a leading poisek, was that around about that time, unfortunately, it also affected the lives of many communities and great Gedolei Yisrael, Harishonim. It was around about that time that all the terrible tragedies of the Crusader, Yamach Shmom, and the whole wars that took place in certain parts of Europe and Central Europe or Western Europe or wherever it was, there were all these terrible, and then they ended up over in England, and there was all the Torahs over there. And so there were many, many very serious questions came up. There was such a huge mix-up, and so many of the Goyim mixed in amongst the Yidden, and interfered with Jewish women and whatever. It was a terrible situation. So therefore, there were certain great poskim that they came out and said that in certain communities, they can't marry anybody at the moment. They're going to have to think about what's going to be done, whether it's for gerahs or how we're going to sort out this whole mess. and they were very machmir. And therefore, a lot of people before, those who survived, who had already had shidduchim with chassan and kalas, and all of a sudden this great authority said, stop, no weddings, no nothing, until everything will be, sorted out. What are we going to do with this whole, is it going to be through gerus or through some other, what's going to be the whole line? And he wrote a whole big public hachrazah, how do you call it, announcement about it. And the Rambam came out, that's when the Rambam wrote his first Igeras. And the Rambam said that all the Yidden are oinsim, they're oinsim gemurim in the hands of these terrible invaders and the terrible goyim that made so much trouble. And it's a limit schus on all those that they still remain in their emunah, they're still holding firm of believing in Hashem, and they're still uniting, and they still want to be Yidden. And you come along and want to say, no, we're not sure if they're really Yidden, and we've got to maybe be Megayah. And the Rambam really goes to town. And the Rambam says, Al Pi Halacha, everybody has until it's proved clearly that he is not a Yisrael kosher, he has a chazaka that he is a Yisrael kosher. All the chassanim and kalas are all okay, they can all marry, and we have to be makayim, these communities, operate them and shatter them more than what they're already shattered. And the Rambam writes these tremendously strong lashonas of defense of the Yidden, and showing how the Yidden, on the contrary, how wondrous this people is. If you just take into account everything that they've been through, Ismail understand the situation, let me torso, according to Ahavas Yisrael, and don't come along and say, it's all going to be, pulled down, and who knows how it's going to be rebuilt, So the Rambam says, Chas v'sholim and he writes all sorts of very, very strong Lashonos. And he comes out and he talks b'shvach of the Jewish people that, on the contrary, they came through and they all want to be in. They want to go back to their chosens and colors, despite all the tzoras and everything, unbelievable slaughters and everything that have been. We have to praise, we have to realize how great is the Jewish people and put them back on their real foundation. I've forgotten the name of the Igeras, I just forgotten this moment. It's especially Igeras that the Rambam wrote. And that's what made the Rambam famous. That's what brought him into the public notice throughout the world of the Jewish, is that me? The Jewish, it's an SMS. It's throughout the Jewish rabbinic and halakhic world. The Rambam also became very famous, and the people were tremendously inspired from his defense of the Jewish people and his love, and his recognition of the greatness of the Jewish people. So we see that it all begins with the Inif and Ahavas Yisrael. The greatness and the first approach of the Rambam is to save Yidden from ruination, and through recognizing their greatness and putting that into the levushim of nechonim of halacha, and not to bring it into levushim, which will throw everything into ruination. And he's very, very stark about it, the Rambam. Very, very strong. And actually, the people have shown later on, after the Rambam, there was still a lot of, hemship to all these stores and other parts, and it lasted for, unfortunately, a very, very long time. Rashi also came into the picture, and there's a famous inyan that Rashi did something very similar to the Rambam. And the Rashi got together his Bezdin, and he paskin very similar to what the Rambam paskins. It's a limit schus on all these kehillas, and we cannot go into all the shalas, and we're not mechuyev, and we're mechuyev only to rebuild on the basis of the assumption that every Yid is kosher, until we've proved absolutely that he's not. But just from doubt, we have no right to do that. There's a very famous psach of Rashi, and it's very, very similar to the Rambam. It's mamish the same general cow. But the difference is that Rashi was already well known. He was already well accepted in the Jewish world as one of the great rabbinic leaders. The Rambam was, in inverted commas, a command that moved into the whole area of Jewish psak through that famous approach that he took. And Baruch Hashem, that's what actually became the final halakhic maskona, and he was proved to be 100% right, the Rambam. And Rashi went very much in the same derek. And since Rashi was after, he was later than the Rambam, he was maybe born approximately in the same time, maybe a bit later, but he was later in actual rabbinic status. He was later than the Rambam. So it's very likely that Rashi also drew on this famous approach of the Rambam. However, we see the Infinite Israel, and that's another inyan that our Nasiim, the Nasiei Chabad, they're very dovuk in the Rambam, because the whole Yelech of Chabad Lubavitch is Avos Israel. You follow? Believe Avos Israel, it's nothing worth. You follow? And like I heard from my Mashpia, that he once said, if you can learn the whole Hemsheichim, learn the whole Maimorim from the Rebbeim, you can learn, let's say, the whole Samach Bava or something. But if you look at another Yid with a left eye, he said you have to learn it all over again. If you look at a Yid with a left eye, then you got to learn it all over again, all the Chassidus. Because the whole inyan of Chassidus is only to instruct you how to look at another Yid. And how do you do that with the right eye? Can you do a sipur? As the Rashab told the Frierdiker Rebbe, why you have two eyes, Why don't you just have one eye in the middle of your forehead? Because you have one eye to look at Eilam Hazeh, and that's the left eye, and the right eye is to look at another Yid. That's why you have a right eye, And that's the Rambam. That was the beginning of the whole godless of the Rambam. And that's the beginning of the whole Torah, the Alter Rebbe, and all the Rebbeim. We all have to learn. And therefore in Tanya, the Perik that he talks openly about Avos Yisrael is Perik Kovov. And Kovov is the gematria of the Shemavaya. In other words, that the Shemavaya of the whole Tanya is Avos Yisrael. And the Rebbe tells us that Perik Lamed Vov, not Lamed Vov, Perik Lamed Beis, talks openly, the mitzvah after L'Orecha Kamon, and that's Lamed Beis, and that's Hadikot. That's the heart of the tongue. We have to say L'chaim. And we have to realize that Yesh Lema, why the Rambam was able to handle so much complication at one go and be involved like so much, why we said, because he was the inyan of positivity. The Rambam never came out with any public inyanim that were negative, there was only positivity. And the Rambam saw other Yidden in all the situations that he was. And he would have to lay on the bed sometimes and give these people medical advice, but he never used his own weariness as a terrorist for not helping other people. Even though some of them mixed amongst them were also non-Yidden. But the Rambam used to give them all his maximum attention. Plus, he's running at the same time all these halachas of the other Chazaka. We see him came this unbelievable union of positivity, particularly towards the other year. Well, that's the yesod of the whole Hatzlocha, the whole godless of the Rambam. And therefore the Alter Rebbe brings the first quote of the Rambam in Tanya, B'negeh to the neshamas of Yidden, that all Yidden are from Atzma Sein Tov. they're all mushas in the highest inif Chok Mosai is part of the Chok Mosai Echad. He brings up a Shema Rambam. The Alter. I remember when he's talking about the greatness of the Neshama, he brings in the Rambam, Mr. Ryan, as they say, the Rambam, it's one only, called connection figure, the Rambam and the greatness of Yid. Vamela, L'chaim Yidin. Vamela, if that's the case, then it's a fitting moment, to us. Also to good Sachen for Yidden, since the Rambam's so in it, to help other Yidden, to learn on them schools, and to make it possible to build up homes and marry the Bashet and all the rest of it. So it's a Eitzrota. Is that what you say, Rabbi Kutri?
Yosef Yitzchak ben Rivka.
Yeah, Yosef Yitzchak ben Rivka. And David Yaakov ben Chayabella. Halevi, he's a Levi. David Yaakov Halevi ben Chayabella. He needs a first line. But Baruch Hashem, the signs are that thanks to Hashem he's coming through. Baruch Hashem. And Ali Yidin was the Daven Yeshua's son. And if I, in all my humility, if I can mention Rivka Bas Dvar, my daughter, which she needs a shidduch so badly.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, Rivka Bas Dvar. It's such a augureous moment, It's the Rambam, and his first psak was going to get to, setting up homes, and shidduchim, and all that sort of. I should help. And say, when all people that they need Yeshua's and Yonim, it should all be B'Poel.
Amen.
Somebody in Tsfat is very ill with his leg, Ephraim Gorski. Can I just call him and ask him what his mother's name is?
Who's that?
I think you said somebody is ill. Yisrael Ber Kaplan had an operation on his leg yesterday.
Are you sure?
Another operation.
Oh,
They had it removed.
Pilly, right?
They removed the bird cage.
Okay, but,
It's a pilly. Before I got into the car with Spencer tonight to come here, I had a machshava. I have to find out what's
better.
Kaplan. We don't see him,
Baruch Hashem is better, but they
It was like a Hampshire that thing he had with his leg.
I think they took out the
Pins.
the screws.
Oh, they took out the pin.
That's good. It worked out.
I think so. I don't know. That's what we hope.
It's been a long time.
Very appropriate concept of the Rambam, that anyone who needs anything should be fulfilled on this night.
Amen.
The big doctor
Fine.
is in the shoes.
It's a great Israel, ever. And we see that the chibur, מאוד מיוחדת that our Rebbeim had for the whole Torah of the Rambam and everything the Rambam represented is in the Rebbe reaches a tremendous expression. We see how the Rebbe relates to the Rambam, and the whole kriyas of the Limud HaRambam and everything all became it started because the Rebbe wanted to what you might call preserve the COVID of the Rambam, because at that time there was some amendment in the world or something else, and the Rebbe said that if they're remembering what was
the Yom 850 years. They commemorated 850 years of the Rambam's birthday. They made a whole thing in Spain.
Yeah, but the Rebbe said that could even be Ma'ir Rakitrug if we don't run the Torah or something. And that's why the Rebbe began the whole, because he wanted to how do you call it, defend the COVID of the Rambam. And we see the unbelievable developments from the Rebbe in his peers of the Rambam's Torah. So many sichas from the Rebbe, and so many siyumim on the Mishnah Torah, amazing. Absolutely, the shan of the salt of the Rebbe's Torah, the siyumim on the Rambam, the mufloim, admoi. All that indicates just the unbelievable kesher between the Rebbe and the Rambam.
Sits in the Magid, the Mazritche Magid, demanded from the Talmidim to learn Rambam.
And the Mazritche Rabbi?
Magid, the Magid.
Yeah, the Magid.
But he had the Mezolan Rambam. He wanted that Chavaya should learn Rambam. He had a shiur in Rambam.
Yeah, I think I remember something about it.
The shiur Rambam.
Yeah, it's a mela. Also, it's brought down. It's brought down other great Sforim, measured the Doras, that particularly the great Tzedek authorities all recommend that you must have some sort of a shiur in the Rambam. You should always be ma'ayin. And some Sforim write that just learning the Rambam's Lashon, even without really knowing a great deal about it, but just learning and saying, is makna kedusha into the order. The very Lashon of the Rambam, just reading it the way it is, similar to what the so it makes you feel better, eh? It's similar to what the Taimani Yidden, another great Swedish Yidden, say about learning the Zoya. That even if you just read the Oisias, that's makna, and brings a kedusha into your life, just for saying the Oisias. And the same thing when I get to the Rambam.
There's a whole perik, Kimat in Shar Yichud Be'emuneh, which is a quote from the Rambam.
Yeah.
Shar Yichud Be'emuneh.
Yeah.
Kimat, the whole perik is a quote of the Akkam Lashon, the Lashon of the Rambam.
Yeah,
so
sure.
The whole perik.
Yeah, perik ches and test, quotes the Rambam. Yeah.
The whole quote of the Rambam.
And
He's in the same building as Israel.
So somebody that also needs a poor shleimer, Ephraim ben Sor, also an operation on the foot.
No, he's a very serious thing. Foot is all infected. Rabbi Ephraim ben Sarah, Goldstein.
Ephraim ben Sarah. First name. And Tato in Perites and Sharayichud the Hagor. Also, the whole sort of that Agor, his chemo, it's a different lesson than Perik Beis. In Perik Beis, the Agor says his chemo, he told, Chachmei HaKabbalah. Over there, he writes another lesson, not his chemo, but what does he write there? Not his chemo, another lesson. So there's a whole deal on what, why the Shinei Oloshim of Al Chaponim. What it comes out is that whole Hagor in Perik Tez is all about the Rambam. And showing how the Rambam held from the Yichud of Elokus with the Spirit, with the whole Inam. What the Rambam writes is, who are you there, who are you to, who are there, Atzma. Yeah, on that, the Alter Rebbe brings. And in the Hagor in Perik Tez.
Yeah, he doesn't bring the scheme. Yeah. He says he doesn't say the scheme. He brings the whole thing. Who is there? Like this.
I just write. I think it must be in Perik Mem Beis.
No, yeah, but Perik Tez, he brings the whole thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't say scheme without the scheme.
Yeah, but in Perik Mem Beis, I think he writes another lesson. Not the schemo. Hoidu O. In Perik Beis, he writes for Hoidu Roi Chokmei HaKabbalah. And over there in Perik Mem Beis, he writes his chemo. Verstehst?
Yeah.
So the Chassidim say Abshetel. That when you begin Tanya, it's you're battling to understand the Beklal Hoine van Elkus. Therefore, they were made to him. You get all the way over to Perry Base, you've already supposed to have got a bit of an idea of what's going on. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, "Eskimo," we told. Their Seichel was already able to understand something. And therefore, they were able to be masculine. That's a Chassidish quote about the world. But there's from the Rebbe about that also. Oh, beer. But,
in Perek Zayin, it says, "V'hiskimu imay chacham." In Perek Zayin, "V'hiskimu imay," not in the Hagoy, "V'hiskimu imay chacham," not in the Hagoy.
I'm also who's scheme.
yeah. Ein Shom said it, Iskimu meichok Kabbalah. That's what he brings in Perek Beis, the Parshas of the Ramah. Or in Perek Mem Beis, I'm almost certain. But anyway, we won't hold everybody up. Okay, but in Perek Mem Beis, as I told us,
The Rebbe was particularly interested in the last book of Rambam, which is about the
in
Shiur.
Perek Beis, it's Hoidul.
Chapter 11.
Al Chaponim,